pause before Michael answers that question, because I want the viewers and the public to just hear that what you said. Not once, not twice, not 5 times,
11 times,
not 8 times, 11 times South African champion. I mean, that is phenomenal.
Sharstar and Paramount, they lock together, and now super quality flying, super quality golden award, super quality, and Muis Roberts won the Rothmans.
My biggest highlight in England, I would say, obviously, meeting the Queen, you know, from a little Afrikaner boy from Africa, if you want to call it, and meeting her the first time. The championship was very special because that, to me, you know, I don't know if you'll see that again, to be honest with you, because it just stopped going. You know, mentally it was, you know, it's work. I mean, really speaking, you know, if I was getting 4 or 5 hours sleep a night, it would have been a lot.
3 years, Mtoto, Michael Roberts, under orders, and they're away. Very fast break by F1 on the outside, goes straight into the lead. F1 on the outside with Doyoun surprisingly up there too. Glacial Storm on the inside, then comes Soft Machine, then Almarad, and then Moon Madness and Tony Benn. Percy's last, one of the back markers, and Mtoto is absolutely last.
Mtoto winning the King George, it was very special because at the time I think the De Beers were sponsoring it. It was called the King George Queen Elizabeth Diamond Stakes. And you know that is like your, you know, you know, in South Africa we got the July, and in England they got the Derby, but the King George Queen Elizabeth Stakes is like the pinnacle race for older horses in England.
Mtoto's gone to the front from Almarad and Tony Benn and F1. Mtoto with the advantage as they race into the closing stages. It's Mtoto from F1 and Tony Benn as they race towards the line. Mtoto wins the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Diamond Stakes. Second was F1, third Tony Benn, 4 Almarad, 5 Percy's last. Behind them, Doyoun, and then Soft Machine, and then Glacial Storm and Silver Lane, and last was Moon Madness.
I was actually born in Cape Town in Groote Hospital. My parents, you know, moved down to Dispatch down at Port Elizabeth, and I was the firstborn, and I've got 3 other brothers, and at the age of 12 we moved to Oudtshoorn, where we moved onto the farm, and quite close to my grandfather's, where I spent most of my holidays, going right back to, you know, when I can remember, and that's where my passion came for, you know, for animals and, you know, and a farm life. Living on a farm was, you know, fantastic because it had milking cows, and there was sheep, and obviously, you know, being in Oudtshoorn there was ostriches. It's a child's dream, you know, and up to grade 7 we went to the farm school, which was nice because I think there was only about 14 of us in a little farm school with 2 teachers. So, you know, it's really a child's dream, you know, to be brought up like this, you know. So we were very fortunate when harvesting times came with the fruit. We always used to go earn extra money, you know, picking fruit on the farm. So, you know, we had a great childhood. You know, I started my schooling at the Susanna Fourie school down there, and then we moved to Oudtshoorn to the farm, you know. My early days at school was, you know, I enjoyed it. You know, obviously I wasn't the biggest in the class, probably the smallest, and you know, I enjoyed playing junior rugby, and you know, I was obviously a scrum half. But you know, that was my life sort of early on. When I got to grade 5, you know, my dad had moved to, you know, to Oudtshoorn, you know, to a farm there, and you know, he was still working and, you know, and farming at the same time. But you know, from an early age, like I said, you know, my passion was, you know, with my grandparents. You know, I was like the blue-eyed boy because I was the first grandchild. I think I was a good child. Maybe naughty. You know, I don't really recall much of that, you know. But I mean, you know, we always, you know, obviously 3 other brothers and myself. You know, we had our little chops and chuckles, you know, and things. But no, you know, we were a very happy family, really, to be honest with you. You know, I've had a herd of my own cows that I used to milk, you know, in the mornings before I used to go to school. We obviously, you know, when we lived on a farm, we went to the farm school. And my grandfather gave me my first cow, I remember, and then, you know, they multiplied. By the time I came to the academy, I think, you know, I was milking like 12 in the morning, you know, and that was my little income. My mum got very sick, unfortunately, and she was always against me becoming a jockey, you know. But, you know, I was adamant I was going to be a jockey, and, you know, then she passed away before I actually went to the academy. But, you know, it was always just a burning ambition in me, you know, to ride horses, really, you know. One day, you know, we saw an article in Huisgenoot about the Jockeys Academy, and that's where the real love started to happen, you know. And the only thing that, you know, we as a family knew about horse racing is, you know, the July time, you know, when they used to stick the posters up in the windows of the shops. I remember, you know, the one shop I always used to go to, you know, ask them, please keep the poster for me, you know. That's sort of the first time that, you know, we sort of learned about, well, I learned about horse racing and that, you know, because July time, you know, the whole, you know, country talks about the July, you know. I spent 6 months in boarding school, which actually helped me a hell of a lot to getting over the emotions of losing my mum and that. You know, I think that stood me in well, because, you know, by the time I got here to Durban, look, it was lonely, you know, arriving here, and I must be honest with you, when I went for the interview at Greyville, we flew up from PE, you know, to Durban, you know, for the interview here, and Mr. Buckham was the riding master, you know, and he took me to the academy, which were then, those days was still in Marion Hill in Pinetown. I was scared, I must be honest with you, and you know, when we arrived there, and they took me up to the dormitory and sort of, you know, had my little case with my clothes in and that. But the only thing I was asking is, where are the horses? Can I go see the horses? You know, and that like changed my mind. But I settled in, you know, very easily, I must be honest with you. You know, it wasn't a battle. Yes, you know, there was nights when I was very lonely, I must be honest with you. Yeah. But I met very good people in the academy, you know, like Patrick Crayer was my senior jockey apprentice at the time, you know, and I was his kid boy. And I must say, you know, he looked after me very well in the academy. So, you know, he protected me a little bit, because, you know, I was only, I think, small, very small, and I only weighed like 57 pounds. It never entered my mind about going home. You know, the bullying came a bit more later, but I mean, you know, that's like any boarding school you go to, you know. To me, inside was just, I want to go see those horses. I want to get in their backs. And that was, you know, the thing that kept me going, to be honest with you. Well, getting into the horses for the first time, you know, it was lovely. I absolutely just, I wanted to be on the horse's back, you know. And the thing that I can remember and recollect is that, you know, these horses look, you know, they were so big for me, you know, compared to the farm horses, you know. They were so tall, you know. Everything just fitted in well. I mean, you know, the first lessons, they obviously put you, you know, in a paddock to go around, and you know, the trotting and that started, you know, and everything else. And no, you know, it's, you know, everything just became natural. It became like, you know, I couldn't wait for the next morning to wake up to go see my horses again, you know. Look, it was hard work. I mean, you know, in the mornings we had to muck this, you know, clean the boxes out and groom the horses and chop the lucerne. And so, you know, to build up muscles and that, you know, there was no electric machines to do it for us, you know. But that was part of the program that we were in, you know, to make us strong in that, you know. And you know, then we were all given a horse each, and which was like, oh, now this is your baby, you must look after him, clean him, groom him, and everything else. And so, you know, it just, you know, to me it was heaven. At the academy, at the time, I think there was about 18 horses, and they were all, you know, different grades. You know, how strong they were, and you know, to ride. And once you could ride all of them and hold them, you know, on the track at the academy, you were allowed to go to the track. So coming back to the trainers, you know, I was running around from trainer to trainer when I arrived there. They're very nice to me, I must say, you know. But I mean, I was so small, and I had a few runaways, I must be honest with you. But, you know, I quickly learned. I've always been very lucky, you know. I can steal with my eyes. I was watching the senior jockeys, what they were doing. How come they can hold a horse so easy, and yeah, I'm battling, you know, and took a few tips and asked a few questions. The first real big race that I can recall in my mind is actually winning the Guineas.
Number 12, Mukadama at 9, Frankie Dettori. Mukadama wearing the red cap. Number 30, Mystico at 5, Michael Roberts.
Thanks, John. All in and all out in the 2,000 guineas. Desert Sun slowly away. He's last. And the first leader is the only grade Mystico. Mystico from Muis. Then on the outside, Mulvernico for Ireland. Right in the bunch is Bog Trotter. Also generous. Just in behind those leaders comes the unbeaten favourite Marju. Up on the outside, Shalfa. They've gone a furlong and a half already. And there's a furious pace up front, and it's being taken up now by Bog Trotter on the outside. Bog Trotter from Mulvernico for Ireland. Then generous on the near side is Mystico.
Well, that was a race that sort of stuck in the back of my mind, you know, that I couldn't call. But, you know, I was quite lucky early on, you know, won smaller races here and there.
Will is at work on Marju, in behind Bog Trotter, who leads on the left of the picture. Coming with a run, Flying Brave on the extreme left, and also not that far away is Ganges, and also Mukadam is not that far off the pace either. Mystico sneaks through next to the rails whilst our eyes down the centre of the track, and they come down to the 2, and it's Mystico the rails, Bog Trotter in the centre of the track. Coming with a run is Mukadam, and Marju's pulled to the wide outside. Lysius with a run, difficult to see Marju winning from there. Furlong and a half to go, Mystico the rail, and he's stolen it, Mystico to home. Here comes Lysius with a noseband.
And, you know, these things, you know, I could control anything with these things. You know, the hands are, you know, that's the most important thing really, sitting on a horse. I mean, that's your communication between the animal and yourself, you know.
And then Shalford in the light blue, off the pace, Ganges starts to pick up. Marju is booked. They're inside the final furlong now, and it's Mystico and Lysius down the centre of the track, and it's Mystico the rail, Lysius with a noseband, and as they drive to the line, Lysius and Mystico and Lysius at the line. A photo, Mystico meets Lysius in a photo. A big gap to Ganges, generous, Mukadam Flying Brave, and then Hokusai, and the last 3 to pass the post, Bog Trotter, Mukadam, and last of all was Junk Bond. And so the outcome of this general accident, 2,000 guineas, it's gone to a photo, but for me, for my money, Mystico has got there. Mystico in the colours of Dowager Lady Beaverbrook, trained here at Newmarket by Clive Britton. You heard a very confident Michael Roberts before the race, and that acceleration was needed because he beat a good horse on the line in Lysius, the man of Steve Cawthon, owned by Sheikh Mohammed and trained in France by André Fabre. The third horse home is the other French runner, number 4, Ganges.
When I went to England, I think I was about 9 times champion here. The first time I went to the UK, I was asked to come over. And then I came back and been champion jockey a couple more times. So, you know, I ended up in total being champion jockey in South Africa, you know, 11 times. It was a good experience to go over to England because, in a sense, you know, I met Gavin Hunter, and I met his assistant at the time was Alex Stewart, you know, which became really a chap, put me onto the map in later years because he was assistant, then I came back. It was all right. It wasn't great. I only had 25 winners, but we were stuck out. You know, there's no sort of like training centres unless you're in Newmarket or Lambourne. You know, we went to a little village, East Ilsley, you know, on our own there. But I enjoyed it in a sense. You know, it was tough. You know, being in South Africa those days to go over there, you know, it wasn't easy. And then I came back. And then I won, I think, 3 or 4 more championships in South Africa. And in the meantime, Alex Stewart became a trainer in the UK.
The favourite to come and take the Golden Eclipse. Shady Heights still has the edge. Mtoto coming with a great run. They race inside the final furlong. And Shady Heights keeping up the gallop. And Shady Heights going on by half a length. Toto tries to find more. And he does so. And at the line, Toto gets there. Shady Heights second. Very close to third between Triptyque and Indian Skimmer. Then came Galitzin, Broken Hearted. Tay Wharf and Charmer was last of all. And so the outcome of this, the Golden Eclipse. Toto, for me, has just prevailed. That one owned by Sheikh Ahmed Al Maktoum. Trained at Newmarket by Alex Stewart and done what not many horses have done this century, and that is win the Golden Eclipse in successive years. The last one to do so was back in the 1920s. Officially, it's a photo. The judge has called for a photo, but for me, there's no doubt about it. Toto has won it. What a cracking race.
The one day my wife brought back a magazine, the Pacemaker magazine, an English, you know, racing magazine, and he was on the front cover, you know, as one of the most promising young trainers in the UK. And, you know, we kept in contact over, you know, the festive season and things like that. But, and I phoned him up and said, you know, I was going into my 30s, and I could see I wasn't, getting onto the proper horses anymore, and all, all the top horses seemed to be leaving our province yet, and that's when Mr. Millard started to come really, holding his own in the Cape, and I thought I would like to go back to the UK. I always thought that I could make it there, in a sense. It's tough, and then. I phoned him, I said, listen, I would like to come back and give another bash. And he said to me, yes, you could if you want to, but, I'm young, I'm training for the Arabs. I'm fortunate enough to have them in my yard. But, obviously, if they want to use the top boys, Edery or Carson or Swinburne, then you'll have to take a back seat. So I said, no, I'm prepared to take the gamble. And went over, and my first ride for him, I think, won by 10 lengths. He wasn't very impressed because the handicapper crucified the horse, and he said, listen, it doesn't work here like it. If you win by half a length, fine, because now where are we going to go with this horse now, So I said, all right, I didn't know, just soft going. And but in any case, I was never taken off a horse. I was never jocked off for another jockey, and we formed a great partnership, And that was one of the things that I've always been very fortunate working with yards. From day one, with Mr. Brown here. Then I rode for Mr. Rickaby, and I was retained by the Rickabys. Then I rode for Mr. Maingard, Ricky Maingard, retained by Mr. Oppenheimer. And then I rode for Brian Cherry, in my later years. Yeah. So I've always been very lucky and successful when I was working for a yard or with a trainer. And in any case, and then the one morning I rode a gallop, and he said to me, I've got this, there's a unraced 3-year-old there, see what you think of him. Jeez, and I tell you what, he went up the gallops, and I couldn't believe it. And I said to him, this is the best horse I've sat on. And I'll never forget his remarks, and he said to me, you can't have very good horses in South Africa then. I said, I promise you there's some decent ones. This is special. And it was Mtoto.
And it's reference point in the lead. We're under 3 furlongs to race in the Coral Eclipse. Reference point heavy from Pinnacle in second, and Mtoto going very well. Triptych is going to be pulled to the outside to deliver her challenge. We've still got 2 furlongs to go. Reference point for Mtoto. With Triptych on the outside, Pinnacle under pressure. Mtoto is big, and they've got a furlong and a half to go. And reference point back down by Mtoto. With Triptych hanging in behind them. They've got a furlong to go. And it's Mtoto on the yellow next to the rail. Reference point to the spot. And Mtoto comes to make reference point. And Mtoto goes on by half a length. Reference point left there, battle back. Triptych finishes well. Then Mtoto beats the Derby winner. And Mtoto beats reference point. Triptych is there. He's 12 terrible on there. 1 ahead of milligram. A gap of 10 lengths to go there. Another 10. It's the last over and last of all. Clearly SAJA. And so the result of this Coral Eclipse. A thrilling victory for number 2, Mtoto, owned by Sheikh Ahmed Al Maktoum. Graded Newmarket by Alex Stewart and ridden by Michael Roberts at 6-1, has eclipsed the Derby winner.
These things, I could control anything with these things. The hands are, that's the most important thing really, sitting on a horse. I mean, that's your communication between the animal and yourself, And Mtoto put me, he took me to another level over in England. And actually after that work that morning, and I never used to go home and discuss, we never talk sort of racing at home, It's my job's done, I go home and we talk about family things, And I said to my wife, I said, geez, I sat on a horse this morning. I've never had to feel, it was like sitting in a Ferrari, this horse. When I pulled him out behind the 2 horses, he just cruised past it, Mtoto became the best horse I ever rode, and he became the top horse in England. And he won the Coral Eclipse twice, he won the Royal Ascot, he won the King George. He was a phenomenal animal. My first Group 1 winner was on Mtoto, the Coral Eclipse, where I beat the Derby winner of that year, which was odds-on favourite, a horse called Reference Point.
2 Mtoto, Michael Roberts. 3 is Sharp Noble, Jeff Baxter. 5, the amazing mare Triptych, Tony Cruz. 6, Bellotto, Pat Edery. 7, Gulf King, Blinker for the first time today, Paul Cook rides. 8, Media Starguest, Dominic Burf. 9, Reference Point, Steve Cawthon, the Derby winner. And number 11, Milligram, Walter Swinburne, completing a tip-top 8-horse lineup for this Coral Eclipse. That's it, milligrams in, they're lined up, that's it, out and running. And Gulf King was slowly away. The others broke on an even pace, and through the first furlong, it's Reference Point who goes on. Where's the pacemaker for Trip Tiku's in second? The pacemaker's back in third, fourth place, and the pacemaker is outpaced, and Reference Point is blazing a trail.
And that victory just, it was putting it on the light switch. It just changed my life, because everybody wanted to use me, because he can ride a Group 1 winner. That's a big thing in racing. You ride a Group 1 winner, you sort of got the seal of approval.
Reference Point, who's owned by Mr. Lewis Friedman, trained at Newmarket by Henry Cecil and ridden by Steve Cawthon. This was a magnificent race. Set off at a blistering pace, did Steve, on Reference Point. The pacemaker, Media Starguest, couldn't get there, but there you can see the first and second home in the Coral Eclipse. Michael Roberts talking to Steve Cawthon. This is a very, very good horse indeed, being beaten on the day by a better one in Mtoto, a son of Busted who won this race 20 years ago. He improved with age, and Mtoto has certainly done just that.
It was tough, but I went there with a very open mind, because racing is not a team sport. It's it's individual. And yes, I mean, quite a few trainers would I would greet them in the mornings, and they would just look the other way, which was understandable, and I accepted that, and I just kept saying good morning, and I mean, they had their beliefs and everything, and that, and then there was a few incidents on the race courses. Sometimes punter would throw his race card at me. He said, "Go back to Africa." Not South Africa, Africa.
That's a very accurate summation of the probability of what's happened. Let's see what will happen. I must say we expect Quest for Fame to lead, and he's just going on, and indeed he is. But he's not stretching them, and there's no pace through the first furlong, and Mukadamo is taking a keen hold.
I just looked at it this way. Look here, I'm there as an individual. I'm not bringing a team with me there. And and then I won a couple of races at Ascot. Where the BBC is, used to do all the interviewing and presenting.
Top Honora's going in Stagecraft Slipstream. They've got 2 to go, and it's Quest for Fame on the outside of Terriman. They're 3 clear who's Stagecraft. 2 back to Top Honora for Get Environment Friend, and Mukadamo just over a furlong to go, and it's Terriman in the lead, with Quest for Fame on the outside. All of a sudden, Stagecraft is going up and down in the same spot, third at best, and it's Terriman and Michael Roberts who took the initiative early on, and it's Terriman in the lead, and Terriman wins it. Quest for Fame is second, desperately close to third. Stagecraft and Top Honora leave that to the judge. Environment Friend beat 1.
And they would always throw the political questions at me, and the only answer I could give them, I'm not a politician. I'm here to do a job as an individual. I can't talk politics, I'm sorry, and that sort of settled down. But I mean, it took quite a few years. Remember, I rode in England for 17 years, but it took quite a few years, look, I've never had any nasty incidents, but you could feel there was resentment, if you want to call it, but understandably.
That one was Mukadamo. Well, 4 marks to Michael Roberts, who has stolen a Group 1 race by quickening the tempo at the end of the first 200 metres or 200 yards, because those tactics gained the day on Terriman, and this little son of Bustino going lickety-split in the home straight, kept up to his work very well indeed, in the colours of the Dowager Lady Beaverbrook. Trained at Newmarket by Clive Brutton, so welcome return of form in big race form for Clive, ridden by Michael Roberts, for whom this one is the 83rd winner of the season, and a 16-to-1 shot in this Group 1 race, and a very well-deserved success for little Terriman, racing as a 5-year-old. Second horse home, Quest for Fame, and a photo third.
You will need to be seated in a brace position for landing. To brace, place your feet flat on the floor, cross your wrist, and hold on to the seat back in front of you.
We had a few bad incidents there, with, I was flying from one meeting to another and the plane crashed. It was actually the year when I was going for the championship in the UK. We were going to Chester, and I was fighting the championship out with Pat Edry at the time. The main airport was closed, and there was a little farmer strip you know, because, you know, we were a little single engine, which you only needed 250, 300 meters to, you know, to take off and land. And we got permission for this farmer to land in his field, you see, but the grass was quite long. So we went racing at Chester, came back, rushed off, and we took off, and he actually took a different route from where we landed. And we couldn't get enough speed up in a plane to get up, and we had another trainer with us, Barney Curley, and a jockey. And as we got to about, I would say, 50 meters in the air, I could hear this, you know, the engine was straining, and he had to abandon the takeoff. So he just put the nose down, and we went through a hedge and ended up in a big ditch. And it was a horrific experience, I must say. You know, I thought we were going to explode, because it was a top wing, and every time we were spinning in the field, I could see the little orange light on the side hitting, you know, just like now getting dark. It was the evening meeting, I remember. So I thought it was a little spark starting there, flame starting, you see. And, you know, obviously the fuel is in the wings, you see. And we end up in a ditch, and I don't know where I got the power from. I kicked the door right out and got out. And then I obviously had to go back and get the others, because the pilot was concussed, and the jockey sitting next to him in front, Jimmy Quinn, he had a big gash on his head. And you know, I jumped straight to the back when I saw, you know, that we're going to go through the hedge, and I braced myself, and we managed to get them out. I was anticipating, because you can hear the engine was taking strain, and we were losing height. So the pilot obviously had to push down and abandon it, and hopefully that you could stop. But we were running out of space. So there was a big hedge in front of me. You could see this hedge coming quite quickly, because you build up a bit of speed now, you know. And then of course we hit the hedge. He went right through the hedge and everything else. I mean, flying, just spinning and spinning and spinning. And then, you know, eventually we ended up in this drain, if you want to call it. And, you know, this single engine with a prop in front, and it actually all auguring, you know, into the ground. It was making a hell of a noise and smoke, and oh gosh, it was horrific, to be honest with you. And then, you know, the pilot was trying to turn the engine off, and you know, but it was just smoke and soil and everything around us, you know. I looked up at, you know, the pilot, and you know, they blood all over there, because they hit the edge on the, you know, on the dash. Little Jimmy Quinn next to him, you know, quite, you know, he's a small chap as well. You know, he was covered in blood as well. So, you know, obviously with the impact, you know, they crashed into the windscreen of the plane. Jimmy Quinn was the last one out there standing there, and I said, jump into the water, because, you know, it's the only way he's going to get out is jump into the trench, you know. And he's screaming he can't swim. So it was so funny, because I said, jump, you bastard, jump. The thing was going through my mind was, you know, that the plane's going to explode, you know. So eventually he jumped, and we grabbed him out. There's quite a story to that. So we went to hospital, had our checkups, and they gave us some gowns to wear. And now we're starving. I mean, we're racing all day. Well, 2 meetings. We stopped at the kebab place. We asked that we had to get a taxi now to take us to Newmarket, which is like a 3-hour drive. And we went in to get a kebab. So we got gowns on, you see, because we're dressed. So this kebab owner was walking with his back to the wall, to the door. And next minute he locks the door. So we said, what the hell is going on here now? So the guy said, nah. You have escaped. So we said, no, we escaped from nowhere. Well, so eventually we convinced him, we called a taxi driver in. Yeah, the kebab shop was actually next to a mental hospital, you see. And often these guys used to come out there and wander around, and they used to call him to come and get them back, you see. So that was quite a funny story, I thought. The July, you know, that's our premier race in South Africa. That's a race wherever you go in the country, people, you know, the non-racing man will know about the Rothmans July those days, you see. The one night I got home, and my wife said, my agent here called me and said he's found me a very good ride in July. Is it possible for me to come out? So I spoke to my trainer. We never had a horse for the Eclipse. So I said, do you mind if I go out for the July? And it was a horse called North by Northwest, trained by David Ferraris, and we all excited. He said it'll be favourite, and you know. 2 weeks later, came right back from races. Oh, my wife phoned me in a car and said to me, David Ferrara's phoned. He said he hasn't got the best of news for you. Phone him when you get home. So I phoned him when I got home, and he said to me, Mowing was his stable jockey at the time, and North by Northwest just won the Daily News, and that he's changed his mind now. He's going to switch to North by Northwest, because originally he was booked to ride, he wanted to ride Super Quality, you see. And so David said to me, and you know, he was stable jockey, so obviously he had first choice. So David said, but you know, Super Quality is not a bad little horse. You know, he's not the biggest, but you know, he's got a small chance, but he's not in a league. He's in exactly what he's not in a league of North by Northwest. You see. So I thought, oh, well, I've made arrangements. I like to come back because I like coming back to see my farm and everything. I'll come back. And got in a ring. I looked at this little horse, so small, and he gave me a leg up. All he said to me, you know, Gravel, I'm not going to tell you how to ride the horse, but whatever happens, trying to bring him on the outside. He doesn't like running between horses, you know, in the straight. But when I got on the horse and I asked the groom, I said to him, have you put some money on it? He said, no, boss. No, North by Northwest champion. And I thought, oh, crikey, you know. And tiny horse, I promise you. But when I cantered down, I pulled up next to Garth Puller and I said to him, oh man, this horse gave me such a good feel. It felt ready, you know.
Rothmans July, Shah Star goes in. They're closing the gate on Shah Star. We're going to have a start any second. There's the roar of the crowd. They're dispatched in the Rothmans July, 2,200 meters, and in search of the leaders. Counter-action. Fairmont is right there. North by Northwest along the rail has a good position. Counter-action's well positioned. Flying Promise and Lambent Light on the outside, and the grey Count Pavley's also well placed. Golden Ord in the thick of things, and Super Quality's pulling very hard.
In the race, he was always travelling. I had a bit of a rough passage in the beginning, round the drill all there, but coming this straight, I just moved him out and away he went.
Coming wide out, Shah Star's making a break. Count Pavley and Fairmont now looking for a rails run. They turn for home, Flying Promise. Fairmont moving in down the inside, Shah Star the outside, and Harlan Park. It's now Fairmont is at the front. Shah Star, Flying Promise all trying to run on. North by Northwest, it's Fairmont and Shah Star past the 100-meter marker. Shah Star and Fairmont, they lock together, and now Super Quality flying. Super Quality Golden Ord. Super Quality and Muis Roberts won the Rothmans.
That was fantastic. It's you know, I couldn't stop crying. It was like the emotions just took over. You know, it was so lovely, such a satisfaction. This is our premier race. I've done it. You know, after all those years being away and to have come back. You know, it was like it was unbelievable. I often look at the picture there. You know, of him winning. You know, I thought to myself, you know, you just can't believe it.
You appear mainly from, oh, this is it. This is too much for Muis, and why not? 2 winners this year, as Muis brings the son of Eliodor into the box, and the #1 jockey for so many years in South Africa.
The South and public all behind you. This must be a very great emotional time for you.
Yes, all my only thing I can say at the moment, I've lost for words. The greatest feeling of my life, I promise you that. And secondly, I just want to say thank you for everybody who's involved, of course, and for people who helped me to get here. And also I've got to say thanks to my English public and trainers over there that released me for this few days to come over here. It's burning ambition, and maybe I can do it next year again.
You won a good race.
Today for ours, wins of July. First, #7, Super Quality, right down to 7-1 at the end. I think a lot of money for this horse today. Then wasn't long after that. He then rode in the Classic, and a pretty good run it was too in the Classic. He was behind London News, and then he came to light again in the South African Derby at Turpentine in April last year. And look at this, Martin. Here he comes out onto the track now.
Japan was quite easy for me because I was lucky the first meeting, because they only race on Saturday and Sundays. I got on very well with the Japanese. The culture was, I love their food. For a jockey, it's the best food in the world because you lose weight, you don't put on weight, and you can eat as much as you want to. Sushi is fantastic. They took to me very quickly. I must say that, one thing about the Japanese, they instantly enjoyed me. Look, the language was a problem. I obviously had an interpreter all the time with me. Because they're very private people, and they, although they could understand English, they could speak it, some of them, but they won't in case they make a mistake, so they really, my interpreter said to me, be careful, the Japanese do understand English, but, they just hold back a bit, They're very reserved people, which is so nice about them. And so I got on very well with them, and no, they looked after me very fantastically well. I mean, really, I was like a superstar there. My first meeting, when I went there, I wrote, I think, 5 winners over the weekend. And that's, obviously now you're lucky, and, that really, laid the foundations for me, and I went back to Japan for 4 consecutive years, until I had my accident, and I also was the first foreign jockey to ride a Group 1 winner in Japan on a Japanese horse, which is all, it's also unheard of at the time, The saddest thing for me was, in the back of my mind, I was always thinking I was going to retire when I get to 4,000 winners. And I was 34 short. So I probably would have had another, 6 months or whatever, it would have taken to ride 34 winners. The older you get, the less chances you take. And when race riding is about taking chances, see a gap before it happens. That makes you a bit different for somebody else, to have that instinct in a race to, I'm going to go in there, and it's, it's tight, and you can put your horse's head in and say, listen here, I'm gambling, but I know they're going to open up, and that's the difference between a good and an average jockey, to have that foresight. That was probably, to me, the saddest thing about it, is not to reach that 4,000. It's a bit of a greed story. I rode this filly at Sandown Park. That's a London track. And the trainer phoned me and said, listen, I'm running this filly, I think 3 or 4 days later there. She looks like it's a penalty kick, she'll just go around. So my agent said, phoned me up, said, do you want to go? So I said, yes, I'll go. And he said, I can get you a couple of other rides. The horse that actually broke its leg in the race, I've never ridden for the trainer before, you see. So I went out and the horse went to the start. Okay, it was an old horse, and as we came into the straight, all I remember is seeing the ground coming, and the next minute I woke up in hospital. I was completely out, knocked out. And they sent me home, and then about They said no, they took x-rays and everything and said no, they're not going to keep me, they can go. And about 2 o'clock in the morning I woke up and had this terrible pains and tingles down the left side of my body, you know, like pins and needles. And my wife phoned up our local GP and said, listen, there's something wrong with him, he's crying with pain here. And we explained to him what happened, and he said he knows exactly what's wrong. He's got a, you know, something is wrong with the nervous system, you see. And the next day they rushed me through to Addenbrooke's. They did an MRI scan on me, and they said yes, my spinal cord was caught between my vertebrae, and it was actually severed, to be honest with you. And the guy said, you know, the neurosurgeon said to me, you're so lucky, you could have been in a wheelchair, you know. And he said to me, if you can call it a day, because you know, like I said before, I've had quite a few falls in my career, and he said there's a lot of damage in your, you know, in your spine, and that's, you know, that's when we stopped. And when he told me that and he showed me the picture, I promise you, people say your hairs and your back stand up. That's how I felt. It was quite scary to think you were that so close of being in a wheelchair. My mental state was, now it was the horse or the cattle. and I thought, well, I could combine it. That's why I built everything on my farm. I put stables, tracks and everything. It worked very nicely, you know. But the traveling became a nightmare. I felt very stressed, and you know, I was panicking about everything, you know, because I had good clients, I had nice horses, and you know, you can't take a chance with these animals. You know, something goes wrong, you get stuck in traffic, you can't make you know, to the races and everything like this. And eventually everything was just snowballing, to be quite honest with you, you know. And I was trying to do farming, and I was trying to run the horses. I said to my wife, you know, it's not working out. You know, one has got to give. I'm sorry, we can't do both. And then out of the blue, somebody came around and offered me, you know, offered to buy my farm. And I just said to my wife, look, there's the answer. Horses has been really my life when you think about it. You know, came to the academy when I was 14 years old, and just horses, horses, horses. You know, now things are going very well for me. You know, we got some lovely, obviously, owners, which we all need. We got some nice stock, some nice young horses that I'm looking forward to. We got Rachel coming through as a rider, which is doing extremely well. We're proud of her for what she's achieved. And what more can we wish for? I just want to get that first Group 1 win as a trainer. I must be quite honest with you, I've been blessed, good health. I've got a good, nice family. I've got everything that you could wish for, and I've done everything that I wanted to do in my life. For what I've done and what I've wanted to do from a little schoolboy, and I've come through, I've been blessed.